Okay then. Good morning everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to be looking at recurring journals and deferrals. As you may know by now, I'm Adam and I'm part of the 4PS account management team. And I'm joined here this morning by Pauline, who many of you may know from previous training sessions and our support desk. I'll hand over to Pauline in just a second and she'll take you through today's agenda. But first, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you've been on any of our webinars before, you'll know how it works, but if not, I ask that you direct any questions to me after the presentation is over. I'll put my contact details up at the end on the screen, so please feel free to give me a call or an email and I'll be happy to help you out. This way we can just save some time and make sure that we don't overrun. Also, as usual, this session is being recorded and it'll be available to re-watch online in the very near future. All in all, we're looking for this webinar to last around 30 to 40 minutes. So if you're ready, Pauline, I'll hand over to you and we can get going.
Thank you, Adam, and welcome everyone. In today's webinar, we are going to be looking at recurring journals and deferral invoices. We'll start with the creation and setup of the recurring general journal, in which we'll see how we can set up multiple batches to work with, for example, batches for accruals, prepayments, HP postings, etc. Within each line of our journal, we can choose what type of recurring method is required, and these include fixed and fixed reversing, variable and reversing variable, and balance, and you've probably guessed, reversing balance. Through the use of field syntax, we can see how we can get NAV to help us populate the new posting date automatically when a batch is posted and update the document number to show the current period number or name, thus saving us time having to recode the lines each period. We will also see how we can allocate a posting against either multiple balance accounts and/or multiple dimensions too. And for those situations, such as hire purchase postings, we can set an expiry date so that when that date is reached, NAV will not carry out any further postings. We'll then take a look and see how we set up deferrals in NAV. When you defer an expense or revenue, you're basically saying that you don't want the transaction to hit your income statement at the posting date that's on the invoice itself, but for it to be either on another date or even spread over a number of periods. You can set up as many deferral templates or rules as required to control how the postings are to be deferred. There are 4 calculation methods which provide the rules as to how to split the value, and those are straight line, equal per period, days per period, and user defined. For the user defined, the user actually marks up the deferral lines as required for each individual invoice. The user can control how much of the invoice is to be deferred, e.g. 100%, 50%, whatever is the correct value, and also when that deferral is to start and how many periods to defer the posting over. So let's go to the system and see how it all works, and we'll start with the recurring journals. I've got a nice little shortcut here on my roll center. Just make that full screen. So first thing to say, as I said, we can have multiple batches, and as normal, the recurring journal is just like any other batch out there, and we can set up as many batches as is required. I've got a few set up here, accruals, I've got a monthly one there, and utilities. I did mention about us being able to code up the document number and the date. In terms of the document number, if we're going to create our document number through NAV syntax, then we don't actually attach number series to our journals. But apart from that, it's just like any other journal. So we'll just have a quick look at the details on the line. As I mentioned in my introduction, there are several options in terms of the recurring method. Fixed, where the value, once the journal line has been posted, the value on the lines will be repopulated again. Variable, where the amount once posted, the line will be repopulated with a 0 value. Balance, that will take the whole balance of the account, whatever it is at that point in time. We then have reversing fixed, which basically means on the posting date of the journal line, the line will be posted, and immediately a reversing entry for the next day, which quite often is the first day of the new month, a reversing line is posted automatically for you. Same applies with the variables, reversing variables. The only difference here is that the value is not populated on the line, and again with the reversing balance. So let's just have a look at the other coding. We have a recurring frequency here that is based on what the posting date is here, and as I mentioned in my introduction, there is some syntax that can help us with this. For our postings, most of these types of recurring journals are carried out at the end of the month, and of course each month can have different days, 30, 31, 28, 29, depending on whether it's a leap year or not. So how can we get NAV to help us on that so that we don't have to keep recoding the line each time? Well, there's a bit of syntax. So this is, if I say 1D, so in my case here I've got a posting date of the 31st of July, so I'm saying add a day, which will take me to the 1st of August, and then I'm saying plus 1 month, which will take me to the 1st of September, and then I say minus 1D, so from the 1st of September come back a day, and irrespective of what month it is, the last day of the month will be auto-populated. Document type, we normally leave document type blank, but you can post invoices, etc. through your recurring journal if required. Document number, well here, for example, if I was going to be perhaps doing something on my rent account, I might decide that I want to actually put in here the fact that it is July rent, because that's the month that I'm posting. So I can just come in here and pop in July rent, but of course when I post this line, the document number will still say July rent. My date, because of my recurring frequency, will be updated to August in this case. So it would be a bit silly for me to do that, because I would then have to come back in and recode. However, again, there is some nice syntax. It's a percent followed by a number. %4 represents the month name. So in effect, what will happen when this line would be posted, it would pick up the month that's being processed, in this case July, and will swap that %4 for the current month. Now there are some other syntax which I'll just bring over here, some wildcards there. So %1 is the day of the month, %2 will give you the week of the year, %3 the month number, 1 for January, 2 for Feb, etc. %4, which we're using, which is the month name, and there's also %5, which is the name of the accounting period. Now this will depend on how what is represented, dependent on how you set up your calendar, set up your accounting periods, but in most situations %4 and %5 are likely going to be the same value. So we have that choice. We pick up what type of account we're going to use. I'm just going to leave that as GL at the moment, and I'm just going to go and search for my rent here. As normal, we'll bring through the description as per the GL account. But again, if I want to, I don't have to, but if I want to, I can actually just pop in here that %4 again. And the description on my ledger entries will show, in this case, because it's a July posting date, again, it will show July rent prepayments. So let's have a look at a working journal. So I'm just going to pop to my monthly recurring journal, and you'll see I have some different types of lines here. I have my fixed line here, and there's my balance line. Again, I've used that recurring frequency with my %4. Because I have the amount on my lines, when I post this journal, those values, because it is fixed line, those values will be repopulated with the date moved on to August. With my variable lines, however, and you'll notice here, I'm actually using my bank account, so I'm just doing a bank transfer. Again, exactly the same coding because it is happening at the end of the month, using my %4s, but because it is a variable entry, those values are blank. Once I post, again, it will come back blank once I have populated. I've got here another fixed line, and this one's a bit different. This is hire purchase line, still using the same coding, but you'll notice that I have got a value here in this allocated amount, and that is because for my hire purchase I actually want to split it across dimensions. So to get to that information, I can just go to my allocation screen. It could be that I'm sending the balance to 2 different GL accounts. That's perfectly acceptable as well. But in my case, I'm still going to my hire purchase account, and I want to split the amount through my dimensions for my departments, which are administration and sales. I can split the amount either by quantity or by allocation percentage. And in this case, I've decided that I want 30% of the hire to go to my admin department and 70% to my sales. And dependent on which column I fill in here, the amount field will be auto-calculated for me. Also, you notice on this line I've got an expiration date, because if this was a hire purchase contract, then there is an expiry date associated with that. So I can populate that date. Navision will continue to post details from that line when I'm posting my journal up until the date that's here. And then at that point in time, when that date has expired, then Navision will no longer try and post that line. That can be quite useful because hire purchase of its very nature, you can have ones come up through the year, and it just allows you to recode that line with the new details and put in your new expiration date, just saving you that bit of time. The last 2 entries I have here are my reversing fixed, so I've said they're still fixed, but I want to put post and reversing entry, and in this case 31st of July is when we're posting this, so it will post a reversing entry on the 1st of August. So we'll have a look at the entries once we have posted that. Just a little note that on the posting date, if you are your system date is not that date or in advance of that date, then you will get an error message saying that there is nothing to post, and that is simply because the posting date hasn't been reached. Your options at that point, of course, you can change your work date, or you can just wait until that date has reached. So let's go ahead and post that journal. And of course I have made an error because I have a variable here, everything is valid, but of course I haven't actually populated my value. Silly me. So in here I can pop in the value that I'm going to be transferring. And so now that should post nicely. Of course, if there is anything wrong, dimension, postings on the GL account, etc., then that will be highlighted as normal. So you'll notice now that again, my date has rolled on to the 31st of August. If I now post this journal, then my date will come back to the 30th of September because of this syntax here in the recurring frequency. My fixed values have come back, but of course my variables, because of the nature of them, have come back with a 0 amount. One thing that's quite nice in 2018 is you can actually see the entries that have been generated. So from the Navigate ribbon, Ledger Entries, and we can see here that Here's our July posting. If we look at our variables, because we are looking at bank account, it's giving us our bank account entries. So full audit trail of what's actually gone on. On our hire purchase one, we've got the one entry for July. If I go to the navigate ribbon, I can see I've actually got 3 entries, and that is because, of course, I have done the split of that £850 against my 2 dimensions of sales and admin. Last but not least, we'll have a look at those reversing entries. So we can see that on the 31st of July, which was my posting date, I have my amount, and then immediately what has been automatically posted for me on the 1st of the month, because that's the following day, is my reversing entry. And of course this would be true even if you didn't have the month ending date as the posting date. It will just, Navision will post that reversing entry on the day after. So that's our recurring journal. So the next part of today's session is to look at deferral invoices. Deferral invoices are controlled by something called deferral templates. And deferral templates, as I mentioned, you can have as many different types of deferral templates set up as you have in terms of the types of invoices that you need to post. So we'll have a look at this one. This is for heating and lighting. We give, as everything within Navision, we give it a code or a number, give it a description, and then we specify what is our deferral account, so our balance sheet account that we want the deferral to go to if we're spreading it over periods. What I've actually done in this Cronus database is I have actually created a revenue deferral as well as an expense deferral, because deferrals work both for sales and purchases. We then specify the deferral percentage amount, and that is going to be whatever it needs to be, 50%, 75%, 100%. Obviously you can't do more than 100%. We then say what the calculation method is to be. So straight line or equal per period, days per period, so obviously that's going to differ if it's a 28-day period to it being a 31-day period. Or there's that user defined here, and for user defined, when we actually code up our invoice, we specify there on something called the schedule what the actual split is to be. We specify the number of periods. That's based on your accounting months, so it's done in months, so 12, 6, 24, whatever again it might be. And then we can specify a description to be used when the deferral is posted. And here again you'll notice we've got some syntax. %4 is the same as it was on our recurring journal, which is quite useful, but we've got a new one there, %6. So if I just bring through our deferral wildcards, you'll notice they're exactly the same as for the recurring journal, and then we just have this %6, which is the actual year number. So quite useful, and again saves us having to code up things manually each time. So in this case the description is going to read heating and lighting July 2016, or whenever it 16, I think it's 18, or whenever the period is. As I say, we can set up as many deferral templates as is required. Then simply, and I'm just going to do it on a purchase invoice on this particular occasion, just going to create a new invoice. Invoice is created as it always is within NAV, nothing special. I've got the posting date, and you'll notice it's 2019 because we are indeed using Cronus, so of course we're always in a different year. To the current one, pop in my vendor invoice number, come down to my line. I'm going to use my GL account 8120, and just before I do, just come here so you can see this, I'm just going to drill down now from my lookup. I'm going to go to advanced, and I just want you to see on the GL account, because part of the GL account card now, you have a field called heat and lighting for this deferral template, and you'll notice when I drill down, it is indeed that deferral that we were looking at. So you can apply different deferral templates to different GL accounts, but of course it is only a default, and so it means when you come into your invoice, you can change the deferral code there. You also have the default deferral template field on both items and resources as well. So again, can save time and help you code up fields properly. So I'm just going to say OK to that, and you'll notice that that deferral code has come through. I'll pop in my quantity, I'll put in my figure here, and nothing magic happens at this point in time, but for us to see what is actually being posted, I come to the Lines Fast tab and the line button on the ribbon, related information and deferral schedule, and you'll see that my details of my deferral template have been brought through to my header here. We've set it up a straight line, and we've had a start date of the end of the period, and it's going to go for 12 periods. So Navision has actually worked that out for us. However, dependent on what we have set up, we will see different values here, and indeed we can change the values here. As I mentioned earlier, for user-defined account deferrals, the user will just populate the lines manually themselves. But if I want to change the particular calculation method, I can do that from this screen. So if I were to choose equal per period, I then just have to do calculate schedule. It will recalculate those lines for me. If I chose days in the period, again, it's going to give me the breakdown based on those dates in those particular periods. So it's quite versatile and useful here. I'll just change that back to my straight line. So once I'm happy with that, I can just say OK. As we do normally, we can just post, but I will just show you on the preview posting that you'll notice what actually will be posted is 29 entries as far as the GL is concerned. So we can go and have a look at that. You can see that for each of our periods, we can see that we have got the amount for the month coming out. We can see that it's going to our heating and lighting and coming out of our expense deferrals. So we can see exactly what's happening here. And also you'll notice, because we use that %4 and %6, that has been brought through to the description for us. And I'll just move this over. Oh, at the moment, because I haven't actually posted, the document number isn't populated, but we'll see on the posted document that the invoice number will be populated on all our entries. So let's go ahead and actually post. Don't want to post and print this time, so I'll just do post from here. What I will do now is I will actually open up that invoice, because it's a quick way for me to go and show you. We want to navigate here. So from our posted document, because we're looking at this transaction as at the 31st of July, we just have our normal GL entries with VAT, etc., and vendor accounts. But if I were to remove that filter and then just say find everything for that document number. Then again, we've got those GL entries, and when we look at those, then we've got that document number, and again we've got the entries showing the month and the year number as well. So we have come to the end of this session, but in summary, we've had a look at our recurring journals, and we've seen that they're an easy and quick way to set up entries such as accruals and prepayments, with the ability to allocate the postings against both multiple GL accounts and dimensions. We've seen how the document date and document number variables mean that you don't have to ever update your journal again, apart from those variable entries, of course. And just now we have gone through the deferrals, and we can see that the deferrals allows you to post a single invoice today but spread over a desired number of periods when those costs are to hit your income statement. Multiple deferral templates allow you for the creation of deferral rules to fit all the different types of deferrals that you might need. So we have come to the end of today's look into those recurring journals and deferral invoices, and I hope that you have found something of interest and indeed something that you will find of use going forward. So I will say goodbye and hand over now back to Adam.
Excellent, thank you very much, Pauline. As Pauline said, I hope you found that interesting and useful. If you do have any questions or would like to see any more or know anything else, take note of my contact details on the screen now, and please do get in touch and I'll be happy to help you out. Keep your eyes open for details of our next webinar, which is going to be announced very soon. And also by now you will have received an invitation to our upcoming Customer Day on the 13th of November. It's going to be an excellent day where we'll be hosting roundtable discussions, getting updates on all things Microsoft and Dynamics NAV, looking at 1-minute wonders in your system, NAV integrations with other software, and much, much more. So if you would like to attend, you can either head to our website and sign up there, or let me know and I can do it all for you. So once again, thank you for being with us this morning. Have a great day and we'll see you very soon. Cheers, thank you.